Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to TUG, the unnamed game. I am Josiah, and today we're going to be walking around the base and showing you guys the changes I have made since the last episode. Now, last time I showed you guys that I was placing crafting stones all along the edges of the walkways. That way we could create a little bit of a path, and also I wanted to fence the paths off, so instead of running all around inside this area where we have things coming up out of the ground and vines in specific places, crafting tables in specific places, things like that. Instead, now we have a fenced off area, so we can't just walk all the way through. Also, some of the crafting stones in places are 3 high. That way I can have little street lights, and for those I've just put little tiny torches on top of each one. Now you guys have seen this room, and this is simply just my storage room. However, recently I decided to take materials that I use pretty much on a daily basis and put them in respective areas to where I'm using them in crafting stations. So of course, right next to the crafting table I have the hardwood handles, leather strips, and the hardwood staves. The potion making area has undergone quite a huge change, actually. We have a ton of gourds crammed against this side of the fencing. And actually at night this looks really cool. The way they place on the ground, there's this bluish glow on the back halves of them. At night it actually looks really cool. I'll try to showcase that for you guys. Also, it was becoming a bit of a hassle to go and collect wood from over here, which I still have some back here. However, now we have the wood back here, and this is simply for the fire pit. It's a bit hard to place back there, but it does make for some easy access. My tools are still over here in front of the window. However, I would like to make a new area for them just inside the blacksmithing building. I'm thinking somewhere along this back wall to just make a table or something to put them on. That way I can showcase them. Now this is actually one of my favorite additions to the base. I made a table and I put all the potions that I have made so far on this table, and in my opinion it actually looks really cool. If you come over here, you just see a mix of colors of all the bubbles coming up out of the potions. I went on the wiki, the TUG wiki, links down in the description of course, and I tried to make every single potion that you can possibly make in the game so far, and I think I've got all of them. I might have to go back and double check, but I think I've got them all. So having made all these changes to the base and having to run around and make sure all the details are correct, I've noticed that when you run without a sword in your hand, it looks a bit like this. But the same distance can actually be traveled faster with a sword in your hand. It increases your speed whenever you're sprinting, and I think that's so that if you have a sword, you're a little bit more OP when chasing goats, because goats can technically run faster than the character. So lately I've just been using it to run around my base and get to areas in the base a little bit quicker. Also, the sword has been super useful when you're picking up fruit. A reason for that would be if you pick up fruit and it's, say, you had an empty hand before and you have the fruit in your hotbar, if you go to pick up more fruit, sometimes you end up clicking the ground instead of the fruit itself, and that essentially just makes you eat the fruit. And my way of combating that has been to take out your sword, and even when you're crouching you can hit shift and walk or crawl a little bit faster. That way you're more level with the fruit, and also if you misclick, there's not really as much of a penalty. You can click and it won't pick any fruit up if you hit the ground, but if you rapid click, it picks the fruit up still pretty quickly. Also, while we're over here, I'll go ahead and showcase this. You'll notice earlier this was just a floating island of dirt and rock, and I had cobblestone pillars coming down and supporting it at one point, but I decided to take my own advice, which I suggested earlier in the last episode I believe, and I just built walls and then put windows in. And what I've been using this room for is to store fruit. We got bananas over here, we got, what is this? coconuts. We got coconuts over here, and we've only got one, and there's a reason for that, and I'll showcase that here in a second. But over here, we have all the oranges and the apples, and I've been slowly stacking these up. My main fear is that this is going to become a little too cluttered in the future, and that eventually I won't be able to reach all the way back into this room in order to place apples and oranges down. For example, if all these oranges eventually fall onto the floor, my character will collide with them and I won't be able to place the oranges all the way along this back wall. So maybe we could make pits for these in this room as well. So to show you guys why I don't have many coconuts, I've only got one in this room so far. The reason for that is if we go over here, see if I can show you this. You see all those coconuts that just fell off that tree? I think the terrain may have just updated for some reason. Anyways, if we go over here, this is something I was not aware of when I first started playing TUG. I saw all these trees, these palm tree looking things right here, and I thought, okay, that's cool, source of wood, and I just eventually cut all of them down. Then, as I was traveling around, I'd find coconuts, and I thought, okay, well maybe they just randomly spawn on the ground. But once I found this tree and all these coconuts around it, I realized they're actually growing up there, and there's one growing up there. I think that would actually be really cool if when the coconuts fell, they could fall on your character and actually hurt you a little bit for a tiny amount of damage. Be an interesting feature. Anyways, I'm not going to be cutting this tree down in the future, mainly because it does in fact supply coconuts, but in order to remind myself that it supplies coconuts, I'm going to leave all these coconuts here. And I'm just going to leave that one coconut in the room up there, near the farm, as a placeholder to remind myself that we need to collect these in the future. But until I get all the resources off of this level area here, on this side of the hill, just underneath the farm, I'm going to keep that tree there. Also, I just thought of something. I haven't seen a video showcasing the ability to actually replant coconut trees. I wonder if that's going to be in the next update. More along the farm and the farmhouse and the future of this place, I just wanted to tell you guys that you may have noticed I've got apple trees and orange trees, and that's essentially the types of fruit that I have in the storage house over there. However, on my travels to find more of these flat crafting stones, I found one cherry tree. That's literally all there was around my base and in this biome. I've only found one cherry tree, and I did gather some cherries for that. What I'm going to be using the cherry seeds for is to actually go right out over here, and I am going to line all the edges, not with the flat crafting stones, because those are getting harder and harder to find. I'm just going to place cherry trees all around the edges, so that way I don't accidentally fall off. And simply because it looked cool, I just wanted to show you guys this. We have all these gourds right here. I'm going to go ahead and sleep in the bed, so that way it turns night, and the glowing effects of the gourds will look even better. There goes the sun. The moon is rising, and check this out. Even the flat crafting stones are just glowing purple. Even the dark wall, just right over here, has a purple glowing hue to it. Personally, I think this just looks awesome. I'd love to see more items in the game that glow like this, especially when patches come out enabling us to use magic. Stuff like this would be really sweet. The last change I wanted to show that I have made to the base isn't so much of a change, more of an add-on. The lighthouse is kind of finished, or at least my idea for it is. I'm not sure I like the lighthouse, however. It just doesn't look as fantastic as I thought it would, and even at night, if you're fairly far away from the base, it just doesn't really render. The terrain doesn't render very far in this patch, so I may have to change the lighthouse in the future, which brings me to the last subject that I want to bring up on this video. So Peter Ino, one of the developers for TUG, the game, commented in the last video saying that as impressive as this base was, when the new terrain generation is online, a lot of this is going to get pwned. Now I don't know what he means by that specifically, as in maybe the cube-shaped blocks will be obsolete or buggy or glitched, or maybe the world will get corrupted and we'll all have to make new worlds to survive in. I'm not sure of the specifics, but I just wanted to address the fact that yes, I will be making more TUG videos, even if this base worst case scenario was corrupted or the world was corrupted and I had to completely start from scratch again. Doesn't really matter. I'm fully aware that the game is still in alpha, and even if I have to delete everything, I'll just keep playing. I love the fact that this game is so creative and the community has been so open, even the developers of the game, and I just want to say, no matter what happens, I love the game and I'm going to continue to play. So anyways guys, that's going to be it for me today. My name is Josiah. Go ahead and leave a like, favorite, or subscribe to the channel to show your support, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!